all those moments will be lost in time.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about pride parades and children and whether they should be going to pride parades. Well, at least that's what I thought we were originally going to talk about. But this article that I'm about to share with you just gets really weird really fast, and I feel like it kind of veers off topic and makes me feel very uncomfortable. So let's get into it. Just so we contextualize a potential bias I may or may not have, I'm bi and I never go to parades of any sort because being in a crowded place makes me anxious. Never been to one. Everything I've seen has been explicitly online and I like it that way. Me being alone and far away from the crowd. Are pride parades kid-friendly? Parents say children can handle the kink. This is not a great title. I have to say it doesn't make people want to really give you an opportunity to explain. Generally speaking, children and kink, I would avoid putting them close to each other just because it automatically makes you look really creepy. But we're gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. Nonetheless, a question about whether pride is sexualized got a lot of people talking. Just to be clear, I have no problems with children going to pride parades as long as those pride parades are made for audiences that are under 18. I have seen pictures of pride parades that were completely fine, completely non-sexual. I have seen photos of pride parades where people are fucking holding dildos and are close to naked. The latter, I would not bring kids to if I had them. Other than that, if you want to share that experience with your kid in a safe environment that's monitored by the police, an environment that's catering to all audiences, children included, do what you want. This is a pretty long article. I'll link it down below if you want to read everything. But the beginning of the article is just talking about how pride parades are all safe and why wouldn't you want to bring your children, like the reasons that I just said. David Rayside, a retired politics and sexual diversity professor at the University of Toronto, said, "Pride has always had a kind of outrageous edge to it. And should we alter that? It is not the Santa Claus parade, and it never was. It shouldn't be. It can't be." So while I agree that pride in and of itself is a little bit outrageous and edgy, makes sense because at one point it wasn't okay to come out as anything other than straight. In some countries it's still that way. So I do think that in some ways it is outrageous because you're being very open about who you are, which I think is a great thing. And some people might classify it as outrageous because some people really go all out with like crazy outfits, which I think is part of the fun. However, the fact that it's outrageous, that doesn't to me equate that it needs to be sexualized, and it also doesn't mean that it turns into a Santa Claus parade if it's catering to kids as well, or to an audience that includes kids as well. I feel like this is a very black and white way to look at it. Like, it doesn't have to be either outrageous or Santa Claus. It can be outrageous in a PG way, like I said, crazy colorful outfits, being yourself, having crazy performances. Like, outrageous doesn't necessarily mean it has to be inappropriate for children, right? And it doesn't mean that it has to be Santa Claus either. So the executive director of Calgary Pride, named Parker Chappell said that they think it's important to remember Stonewall, how everything kind of led to where we are now. And then they added, "And I've passed that opportunity onto my children as a learning opportunity so they can appreciate the work, the heartache, the celebration that our community put into gaining protection." Which, like I said, I agree with the general notion of having children at Pride for the learning experience, for the shared experience with their parents, whatever. That's totally fine. The thing is, they still are children, so just because it's Pride, it doesn't automatically mean that there are no rules or no standards. So I think that there should be standards upheld for children, the same way that I don't think super young children should be watching shit with like straight sex in it. I don't think they should be seeing any type of sex. I don't care between who it is. It genuinely doesn't matter to me. And I think that just because it's Pride, you don't get to kind of throw the standards out the window. They still are children. They still need to be protected, and they still need to be in certain environments that protect them. So there's then this writer, educator, and publisher called S. Bear Bergman, and this is where shit starts getting fucked up in my opinion. So when discussing the parade and politics, Bergman was defending the fact that the parades are kid-friendly and said, first of all, nobody likes nakedness more than children. See, now I read this quite a while ago at this point, and I keep trying to think of ways in which there's a non-creepy way to interpret this. Surely there's a better way to voice whatever Bergman's thinking, which I cannot read minds. I have no idea. At one point I was thinking that maybe Bergman meant nakedness in the sense of when children are very young, they don't really understand the idea of clothing and what's revealing clothing, what's appropriate clothing for whatever age you are. You know what I mean? So I was thinking, is that what Bergman means? Or is it like when children are very young, they're often walking around not super clothed, like just wearing their nappy at home? Or I genuinely was like racking my brain to try and understand a way in which this isn't like perverted sounding, but I can't really find it in the context of what we're talking about, especially relating to pride and the LGBT community. I just don't know what this has to do with anything and where this information is coming from. Like, where are statistics to say that children like nakedness more than anyone? It sounds like something a pedophile would say. I'm not saying Bergman's a pedophile, but I'm just saying it sounds like something a pedophile would say to justify their actions.
To be noted, when I mention pedophilia here, it's not for the purpose of outrage. I explain more later. I am also not claiming any of these people are, in fact, pedophiles. The point is that these people aren't voicing their perspectives clearly, and can easily be misinterpreted and used by people who are anti-LGBT.
On the list of things I don't want my children ever to be exposed to are compulsory heterosexuality, demonstrations of sexism, demonstrations of racism, demonstrations of ableism, violence. That's all well and good, but I think this argument kind of falls flat because, of course, if you compare being gay with being a racist, being gay is not a big deal. It's just part of your identity. Being racist is something to be ashamed of. Yeah, being racist is bad. Being gay is not bad. This list makes no sense to me because what parent wants their children to witness racism? What parent wants their children to experience violence? It just has no bearing on this conversation. And of course, you want your children to be aware that not everyone is straight. Totally fine. The way in which this narrative is composed just makes no sense to me. Then there's this other person called Ren, who's a semi-retired sex therapist. I genuinely am losing all understanding of who's who. There are all these people randomly mentioned, not in order. This is a shit show. So Ren, the semi-retired sex therapist, which what does that even mean, semi-retired? Like, why? I'm just wondering why. That makes me automatically suspicious. Putting on her sex therapist hat, Ren emphasized that pride, from kink to nakedness, is an excellent opportunity for parents to do unbiased sex education. Bergman also pointed out that many children don't even interpret most of what they're seeing in a pride as sexual, but rather as dress up or fun. Children benefit from seeing people love one another, from seeing diversity and inclusion. Children suffer from seeing violence and fear, hatred and divisiveness, Ren said. Again, why are we going back to violence and divisiveness? I mean, I understand why it's being brought up, but like I said, in this narrative, it's just unnecessary.
The premise of this article is to discuss whether pride is appropriate for children. While violence and divisiveness is relevant when discussing LGBT issues such as homophobia, they are not directly related to whether children should attend pride. For this reason, it is not only unnecessary but also shifting the focus.
What I'm seeing here is that love and sex and kinks are all being mashed as if they're all the same thing. Love is not just demonstrated by sex and kinks. Love can be shown by holding hands. Love can be shown in a PG way. The same way parents don't want their kids to see sex shit on television, they don't want them to see it in real life. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have a problem with gay people just because they don't want their children to see people being sexual in public or on television. It's just a pretty standard norm that parents wait until the age they deem appropriate to then tell their children about sex and all of that stuff. Honestly, while I can understand why pride would be a great place to explain to your children how things work, you can explain how things work without someone being naked in front of you or close to naked or holding a fucking dildo or something. You can explain that from the comfort of your home and you can show them at pride like some men love men, some women love women, whatever. I just don't understand why sex has to necessarily be a part of it if you're claiming that children should be there. And just because children don't understand that something's sexual, it doesn't mean that it's automatically okay. I feel like that's just a very dangerous statement to say because, again, these are all arguments that pedophiles could easily use, and I'm not calling anyone here a pedophile. I'm just saying I could easily imagine a pedophile saying, oh yeah, I molested that kid, but they don't understand what I did to them and they didn't see it as sexual, so it's fine. Just because they don't see it as sexual, it doesn't mean it's automatically okay. And while I do think that children benefit from seeing people love one another. Like I said, that doesn't have to equate to sex or nudity. It can be platonic love as well. It doesn't have to be that explicit for them to understand, especially if then you're also saying that they don't understand what sex is. So it's a little bit contradictory in my point of view. So like I said, it'll be linked down below. But for me, the bottom line is either we dictate days that are not kid friendly, so be over 18 or whatever the age of consent is to go to that, and we make days specifically for kids to attend, so maybe it's more catered towards things that children can understand. I genuinely think it would be cool to have days, and I know that there are some places that already do this, days that are specifically made for prides for children. I think that would be a good thing to do, just so if you want to be almost in the nude, at least people know, okay, I'm not going to bring my kid to that. And then the days that are made for kids, people know that they need to dress in an appropriate manner. I think that would be the easiest thing, to be honest, just so there's no confusion. I think that this article that I read does more harm than good, because we already have people who liken LGBT people to pedophiles. I had a person that is close to our family, and when I was younger, I had to explain the difference between being gay and a pedophile because her parents, she's an older woman, her parents had lumped everything together. We already have problems with that. The last thing we need is people writing articles about why children like nakedness more than anyone. That makes you sound fucking creepy. Even from me, a person who is the B in LGBT, I'm still like, dude, that's not, no, like, don't say things like that. Because then we're back to the whole thing of people lumping pedophiles with the LGBT community, which is completely false, and then pedophiles wanting to be part of the LGBT community because they have no place here, let's be honest. Articles like this really just work against the LGBT community's favor, in my opinion, and make everyone look like they have a few screws loose in their brain. And it makes me mad because all the people who already have these stupid assumptions about the LGBT community then just point to this article and they're like, see, they're fucking crazy. They want to normalize pedophilia, and it's like they're turning the LGBT community into something that it's not. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you think that there should be a day of pride specific for children, or if all prides should be children friendly. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and let's get right into the fan art.